Hey friends, welcome back to She's At It Again. My name's Tanya, and I'm trying a recipe today for the first time. It's one of those that you kind of get an idea of some flavors that would sound good together, and then you look on the internet and you find something that kind of matches, but it has ingredients that you're not interested in, or you think, oh, that would be good too. So anyway, found a recipe, but I'm changing it up so much. The original person that had the recipe would never even recognize this, so I don't remember which website it came off of. So I've got some ideas of what I want it to taste like. So this is honey orange chicken, and as you know, I'm a huge fan of honey as opposed to using sugar. The recipe that I saw had some brown sugar in it, which wouldn't have tasted bad, but at the same time, who needs it? All right, so what we're gonna do is, I've got a quart zip top bag here. And I have 2 chicken breasts, boneless, skinless chicken breasts, cut up in sections that look like they're about the same size. So they have about the same amount of surface area, and that's what we're interested in, is surface area. The more surface area, the more sauce you have on it. So you get this big chicken breast, and you have a little bit of sauce or breading or something, and you think, well, that didn't last long. So this one's gonna have a lot of sauce per parts of actual chicken meat. So we're going to start with about a teaspoon of grated ginger, and I took a knob of ginger and just minced it up really finely with a knife while ago and then stuck it in the fridge. It's super hot here, and we had a storm last night, so we have large sticks laying around in our yard, and I'm not a fan of sticks laying around in the yard, so these are sticks of trees that we don't even have in our yard. So they blew from the neighbor's yard. You can tell we had a lot of wind, and so I'll go out every once in a while, but it's so hot and humid outside, as you can tell from the hair, that I go outside for a little while, then I'll come back in and do something. Then I'll go back outside and do something, then I'll come back in and do something. I just can't stay out that long at a time. It's exhausting. So we have our teaspoon of fresh ginger in here. We are going to put a teaspoon of garlic in it as well. I should have gotten that out ahead of time. But I didn't. Okay, we'll put it in last since it's wet. We're going to put a little bit of salt in there, and I'd say don't be shy with the salt, but don't just put an immense amount. I'm going with about a half teaspoon. I can always put more on later, but I can't put less on later. We're going to put in here about a 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. If you like it super spicy, go ahead and add more of that. But the garlic's going to add a little bit, or not the garlic, the ginger is going to add a little bit of heat to it. So keep that in mind. We're also going to put a teaspoon of dried oregano in it. We're going to keep it nice and tidy by keeping it in this bowl. I'm going to add some fresh ground black pepper. And this is how I keep it from going everywhere. I'd say this is going to be about a half teaspoon of black pepper. Shake that up really well. We'll put our garlic in here now. I'm going to add close to a teaspoon of this. Let's put about a tablespoon of olive oil in there. That's just going to be our carrier to get it onto the chicken and help it stick. So we are going to marinate this. And this isn't super wet, but I didn't dry it off. It's going to be in the oil anyway, so. We're going to marinate this for a few hours. We'll probably have this for dinner tonight. So that means right now it's a little bit afternoon, and we usually eat dinner between 5 and 6. So it'll be in there around 4 hours. So again, keeping it neat and tidy, make sure your bag is sealed all the way. I may or may not have had experience with the bag being accidentally opened at one point and ingredients going everywhere. So if I look experienced, I probably am. So just rub this all around. Make sure it's as evenly distributed as you can get it. You don't want one part that has all of the seasonings on there and then part of it that doesn't have any on there. And if you'd rather put this in a plastic container of some kind with a lid on it and just shake it up, stick it in the fridge, that's perfectly fine. Okay, we're gonna put this back in the fridge for several hours, and then when we come back, we're gonna cook this on the stove top. This is not a baked chicken. If I bake it, I'm of course gonna put it in my little convection oven out in the sunroom. I don't wanna heat my kitchen up, but it's cooked on the stove top. Now I could plug in my electric skillet and cook it outside, but I think I'll just do it on the stove top. And when the cameras aren't rolling, I'll of course have my vent hood going, so it will pull all the exhaust and the heat outside. All right, so we'll come back in a few hours. I'm gonna put this in the fridge. When we come back, we'll be ready to add our marinade to it, which includes orange juice and honey, and I think it's gonna be really nice. So we'll see you back here in a few. All right, I'm gonna heat my oil up. I have about a tablespoon of oil in this. Just ignore this burner right now. This is kind of pathetic. Okay, so here's the story behind this little pan right here. I have purple whole peas in here, and that's all I have. Literally, it cannot be more than 1/4 of a cup. But I've been working on picking those for 2 weeks now. I had this little tiny, well, it's not a little tiny box. It's a big box with a bunch of soil in it, and I planted 1 row of purple whole peas because we always grew up shelling purple whole peas at my Nana's house. We always had them. They were so good, and she just put up, I mean, quart after quart after quart after quart of peas in the freezer. And every time anybody came, she always sent home this sack wrapped in towels so they wouldn't thaw out. Everybody went home with purple whole peas. I'm telling you, there was so many purple whole peas. And if you've ever shelled peas before, you know what I'm talking about when I say it takes a long time to shell just a little bit of peas. So all the peas that she had, oh my word, it's a wonder there was enough daylight in the summer to get it done. And I don't know how she got all done because she mowed a giant yard, plus my granddad farmed, and they were hospitable to everybody that walked in their house. She made it look like she didn't have anything else going on that day. She always had time for everybody, and especially us, the grandkids. But all that being said, I was bound determined to grow me some peas. And I don't know, I probably had, I don't know, maybe 20 pea plants out there. And they're still putting on, but I just couldn't wait any longer. I've collected these peas for about 2 weeks now. And I texted my sister earlier and I said, I'm standing at the sink shelling peas. I would like it a whole lot more if I were on Nana's front porch shelling these for hours, but I've stood here for 15 minutes and shelled my 1/4 cup of peas, and we're having them for supper. So that's one of my side dishes. I have some broccoli being steamed. Well, it's not steamed, it's actually cooking in here, some fresh broccoli, and I'll add some carrots to that. So this is our oil that we have heating up. I'm going to grab my recipe over here. I kind of scribbled this down so I actually remind myself what I'm doing. So got the oil heating up in here, and I am going to saute this slivered onion that I just cut up. The oil's not quite hot yet, but we'll get that going. In the meantime, I'm going to get out the chicken broth and the orange juice out of the fridge. It was in my garage refrigerator and I got it out earlier, but I'll set that aside. I want to keep checking my broccoli. I don't want it to get too overdone. So I'm going to use 1/2 cup of chicken broth and 1/2 cup of orange juice. And because the other camera is blocking my cabinet that has my smaller measuring cups in it, I'll just use this big one. Have it ready so when my onion gets done, I can pour this in there. So let me show you the orange juice that I'm using. If you've never had Kroger organic orange juice, oh my word, it tastes so incredibly good. It is it's about the closest thing to fresh squeezed orange juice that you will ever have. This stuff is divine. And I may or may not use more than a half a cup. I really like this stuff. I can always add more later. I'll put a half cup in here, and then if I need more, I can always add more, but I can't add less. All right, so that'll come in later after I add my chicken to this. And our chicken has been in the fridge marinating in that mixture of garlic, ginger, oregano, salt and pepper, and red pepper flakes, a little bit of olive oil for a few hours. I'm going to turn that burner off. I'm going to get a spatula out and get a tiny blob of bacon grease and add to my purple whole peas, because that's just a rule. That's what you season them with. And you're welcome. If anybody has any purple whole peas to season, that's what you do. And a little bit of salt. I'm going to saute these onions just until they start to turn clear, and then I'm going to add that chicken to the skillet. Put the lid on that, and we will cook that. For just maybe 15 minutes or so. I will not leave the camera running while I'm doing that, don't worry. When we first started doing these videos, my husband would say, there's a lot of time in here where you're just chopping up stuff, or when you're just stirring something. And I kind of laughed at one point and I said, you know, that's what people who cook like to see, is people stirring and cooking and things like that. He said, oh, well, we can leave that in if you want to. So sometimes he leaves it in and sometimes he cuts some of it out. But I've told him that that's actually kind of a relaxing thing for people who cook, is just to watch someone saute something or grill something and you see the process of it cooking. But, I mean, we don't leave the whole thing in there all the time. I think he just gets enough of it in there to where you can get the gist of what's going on. I think he does a really good job at it, so I'm very proud of him, because we knew absolutely nothing about making videos, editing videos, nothing when we started. And they're not superior quality, we realize that, but at least you know what we're doing when we make the video. I think he does a great job. Okay, I can stop peeking at that because I've turned the burner off. All right, I'm going to get this chicken out and start adding it to the mix. Looks like everything's pretty evenly distributed in there, I think. With my last piece of chicken, I'll try to get everything out of the bag as far as the garlic and stuff. All right, I'm going to turn our heat down just a bit and put the lid on it. We're going to let that cook for 10 or 15 minutes and then we'll be back. All right, we're going to check our chicken. Let's see. Oh, it's done. Yeah, that's coming along fine. Now what we're going to do is leave the lid off. We're going to add our orange juice. And this is already starting to get thick in here. You can tell the juice is in here. We're starting to get thick. Add our orange juice and chicken broth. And we're also going to add some honey. And we're going to add some orange zest. And you hear me opening the freezer because I hardly ever use an orange that I don't take the zest off of it first. It's just too much goodness there not to use. So this is my jar of frozen orange zest. Just get some of that out of there and sprinkle atop this. Turn my heat back up just a bit. About as much as you would get off of one orange is what I'm going to add to this. And only because if you think orange juice has a lot of flavor, if orange juice had a microphone on it, that would be what the flavor in the orange zest is. Just really adds a lot to it. So don't overdo it on the orange zest, but it's really going to add a lot more flavor than even what the orange juice can. Put the rest of it back in the freezer. And get my hands cleaned off. That makes my fingers look like I've been eating a bag of Cheetos or something. Got orange all over them. All right, we're going to put about 1/4 cup of honey. This is not my good honey. This is not my raw local organic honey. This is just a big jug that I buy because if it gets heated up, you're really not getting the benefits of what you're after in the raw honey anyway. So we're just going to use the lesser valuable, I'll call it, lesser valuable honey, because it doesn't have those benefits to it to start with. May as well use that. All right, we're going to let that cook a little bit. I'll give it a stir in a minute. Get my honey put back in the pantry. And stir this up a little bit. We're just going to let this reduce until that liquid in there gets a bit thicker. Ooh, that smells really nice too. That orange zest just really puts a lot into this. All right, now if you wanted to, you could also serve this over rice. I think that would make a great sauce for rice or something like that. But for right now, we're just going to have it like it is. We're going to have, like I said, broccoli and carrots, and then our little spoonful of purple whole peas over there. So we'll be back in just a bit, and we'll see what it looks like when it's reduced down. All right, our liquid in our chicken has gotten considerably thicker. It's not reduced to like a sticky mess or anything, but if you served it over pasta or rice or something, that would certainly be enough juice to soak up in that rice or pasta. That would be good. And it still has that wonderful orange fragrance in it. So we're going to turn the burner off. All of our meal is done, and we're about to serve it. Okay, so there you have it, honey orange chicken. Zoe is standing guard. She looks like she's waiting on the bus. So it's about time to eat dinner. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed that recipe. Give it a try. Let me know how it turns out for you, and we look forward to sharing something with you again next time. Thanks for joining us.